Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am really excited to be sharing today's video with you because we're going to be talking all about my Natasha Denona eyeshadow collection. I figured I would sit down and give you guys a little peek at what I have and rank all of my palettes for you guys. Now, I don't by any means have a super massive Natasha Denona palette collection. It has definitely been increasing over the last couple years, so I don't know, 2021 will be an interesting one to see how much I add to my collection, but I thought that this would be a good time to just sit down, share with you what I have, talk to you about what I love, talk to you about what I don't so much love, and then that way hopefully that could help you in deciding which palettes you want to add into your collection. Now, if we haven't met, my name is Kelly and I am a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on YouTube I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if you want to hear a little bit about my Natasha Denona stash, let's get right into that. Okay, so altogether I have 7 Natasha Denona palettes, which I'm really kind of surprised I don't have more, but I've really been trying to limit myself. If you guys know, I was very tempted to pick up a few during the Black Friday sales and the big sale that Natasha had on her website, and I managed to calm myself a little bit. Otherwise, I probably could have had like 17 of them. I don't even think she has 17, but you guys know what I mean. It's very easy to go down that slippery slope, and I'm trying to start off into 2021 with some balance here. So I digress. Let's start talking about the one that's at the bottom of my list. Now, this is actually the first Natasha Denona palette I got, and this is the Eyeshadow Palette 5, so this is one of her original quads, and this is the number 4 palette. Now, I got this one from a lucky bag, from a Beautylish lucky bag, I'm pretty sure. And I was so very excited when I got this because this is like, I feel like it was when Natasha Denona was just first really starting to hit the mainstream market, and you know, you were just hearing about this luxury amazing formula, and I was really excited to get my hands on this. Now, I have to say that I was a little bit, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but like when I was hearing all of this hoopla, since I was just starting to tiptoe a little bit more into higher end makeup, like I wanted this to like blow my skirt up, and that just didn't happen, in all honesty. And I'll swatch a couple of these for you. It is not by any means like a bad palette. At this time, I would say that Makeup Geek was probably one of my favorite formulas, and I didn't by any means see this surpassing Makeup Geek. So when I was able to get, you know, a whole like slew of colors from Makeup Geek for the price of this palette, I was kind of like, eh. And honestly, that's where my thoughts have remained. Now, this palette does have 4 shimmers and 1, I would call it more of like a satin matte. I'm not sure if there's just little reflex in here from the other shades in the pan, like carryover, but there are a few reflex, but it basically performs as more of like a matte. So I don't mind having to pull out other mattes because to me, like, I would need another shade to be able to have as a transition for this, but that doesn't really bother me having to grab another little palette. It's just that, you know, for the price, the quality is nice, but it wasn't like amazing me. Does that make sense? I feel like we're only on palette number 1 and I'm already kind of rambling. This should be a very interesting video. All right, so for palette number 6 on my list, this is one of my newest palettes to me. This is the Natasha Denona Safari palette. This is the All Matte palette. Now, there are a couple of reasons why this is at the bottom, and honestly, one of them is just that I just haven't had enough time to truly fall in love with this if it is going to be something that I fall in love with. So I did pick this up during a big sale. I was able to get it for, gosh, it was at least 50% off, but I think it was more than that. And I will say that I've heard a lot of like mixed feelings about this palette. I know some people have said that they felt like it performed patchy. I know, you know, some people just felt like it wasn't quite as creamy. I will say that this is definitely more of Natasha's drier matte formula. This isn't the creamy mattes. This is definitely, you know, more of your standard powder formula, and they are a little bit on the drier side, which doesn't honestly bother me. I really feel like I was able to get them to blend out fairly well. I will say in the video that I did, and I'll make sure to link that above, this shade, I think I used these deeper shades. You do have to take a little bit of time to be able to build them up more, but honestly, I find that with a drier matte formula, just because, especially on my dry eyelids, because I do tend to lean a little bit more like dry towards the fall and winter time, you know, getting a dry powder to stick onto dry skin is going to be impossible. You really have to pack that onto something that has a little bit of a grip to it. So the thing about that though as well is the grippier a primer you use, the more possibility you have for patchiness. Does that make sense? So, you know, I think anytime you're working with a matte, if it doesn't have a creamy consistency, you're gonna have a little fussing to do. But I really didn't have a problem with these. I thought that they performed nicely. The one thing I will say, I am wearing these today. These are all the mattes that I have on my lids. And I wish that there was a little bit more variety in this palette, because I have, sorry, I'm gonna try not to blind you guys here. I have these 3 shades used as my mattes today. So I have this like more, I would say like khaki olive shade is what's blown out into my crease. And then I used the stone shade as more of like a transition, and they worked really well. I think that it blended out and made a very seamless look. And I think that that's sometimes what you have to do with a powdery matte is, you know, really use a couple shades to really like buff and blur that out. And then I have this one's like a mossy green, but it has a little bit of a blue undertone. That's the Rhino shade, and that's what's on my lower lash line. Now, when I look at myself right now, I don't necessarily feel like I have 3 shades of mattes on my lid. And that isn't necessarily bad. It just means that it's blended out like really well. Did I just like compliment myself? I just mean like it's what you have to do to get that like more blurred look. But really, I feel like I probably could have done with maybe one of these shades. I mean, when we look at these 2 shades, they're very similar. Obviously, one is a little bit more on the cooler tone and one is on the warmer tone. But I mean, I think even this with like a fluffier brush, you could get to replace this shade. So I guess I just wish that there was a little bit more space in between the tones and the shades. So especially looking at the full price for this palette, I would have been disappointed in spending that much money. I think I've only paid full price for one Natasha Denona palette, and that was after I started my channel. And in all honesty, I kind of like gave into the hype of getting it quick to be able to review it. So I usually wait until I at least have a coupon or something. So if I had gotten this palette at full price, I would have been disappointed, but I am glad to have it in my collection. It's going to be an easy one to pull out to play with some different shimmers and stuff. So I don't regret it, but it is more at the bottom of my list. Okay, moving into number 5, and I'm really fearful that I'm gonna like lose track and my number count is gonna be off, so forgive me if that happens, but number 5 is the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. So this one I did get, again, during a sale at Sephora. This is one of the larger palettes as well. So I think these retail normally for $125 or $129. Oh, that's a lot of money. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I would ever pay $129 for especially something that, you know, really it doesn't have any unique shades, right? This is going to be a beautiful neutral lovers palette with a few pops of some extra pizzazz. So why is this in sort of the middle of my ranking? So this is actually, I have one of the shades, this one right here. I have that on as my lid shade. And I have to be honest, you guys, like, this again is more like the formula in that original palette here, where it's like, it's nice. I was a little bit underwhelmed, like especially with that shade right there, and I actually kind of went back in to use it so that I could be like, yeah, that's where I want that palette to be on my list. So I will go ahead and swatch that. I feel like there are a couple shadows in here that are a little bit more dry, and there are a couple in here that are super creamy. So I did just put that shade on my lid with a dry brush, and I just went over and used a dry brush, and then I actually went through with my finger. And if you guys know me, I'm team no fingers, but I did use my finger to try to build that up. And can you even like see that? So that's that shade right there, and it's just kind of underwhelming. Like, I don't know, I'm just not wowed by it. But then, you know, you've got this shade that was next to it, which is much more creamy, and I feel like, I mean, it's obviously darker, but I feel like it definitely shows up more. So I don't know, especially if you're going to be spending $129, I want every shimmer to be like ba-bam, and it wasn't. So I'll put one more on here. So this one actually performs a lot better too. So I don't know, I guess I just feel like, eh. And I hate to say that about Natasha Denona, but this palette for me, like, I love the nice color scheme. I think it's very usable and very wearable. The mattes, honestly, they blend out really beautifully. So the mattes in this palette already feel a little bit more elevated, like from the Safari palette. They just have a little bit more creaminess to them, and they're a little bit more spreadable, easily spreadable. Does that make sense? It feels like we're talking about peanut butter, but we're talking about eyeshadow. So this one I like. Again, I'm happy that I got it because I did get it at the 50% off. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So I'm glad to have it in my collection. It is a really nice one to just be able to pull out and do a beautiful neutral warm look. But again, it's just not like that one that was like, oh. So for me, this is sort of at the middle of the road. All right, moving into palette number 4. This is the Peak palette. This is the one that came in my BoxyCharm, and this is actually a collection of shades from some of the other palettes. So I know that I do actually have most of these shades in other palettes, but I'm not mad at that because this is an easy one to pull out, easily be able to use, rather than like grabbing 3 clunky palettes to get this combo. So the things that I love about this, the mattes are, again, I feel like as we go along here, you're gonna see that I feel like the textures improve a lot. That to me is a big part of it. But I also love the color story of this. I think this is very wearable. You know, it's obviously really hot right now because it has that little bit of pop of warmth that everybody loves, because this did launch in the fall. So this is definitely that like harvest vibes. But you know, with this one shimmer that you have in here, you can get a very glam look. And I almost wish, like, I mean, I see why they did this, because you have a nice like creamy tone to be able to buff out onto, you know, the upper lid. Now I will say though that this leaves out darker skin tones, like, and this is the problem that I have with like a 5-pan palette. I really wish that this was like 6 or 7, because if it was like 6 or 7, you could have this lighter brow bone shade. You could also have something that's more in like a camel or caramel shade for a little bit deeper skin tones, and then you'd have these 3 like mid-tone shades, and then you could have 2 shimmers. Like, just giving me 1 shimmer, I mean, this is a very wearable, very usable shimmer, but I like my options. So that is one thing. Like, usually I don't steer towards little like mini palettes or little, I mean, this isn't a mini as far as size goes, but I don't steer towards palettes that leave me with so few options. I really am a girl who likes, like, a 9 palette is usually about as small as I like to go, but this is an easy grab and go one. The quality in here is great. The formula is great. So I was very happy and very lucky to have received this in my BoxyCharm, and I'm glad because it's ranking so high on my list. We are officially moving into our top 3 palettes. So rounding this out, we have the Sunrise palette. I keep wanting to say Natasha Denona, but of course this is all Natasha Denona. So we have the Sunrise palette. I'm not gonna like show you guys the cover for too long because you're gonna get blinded, but this, honestly, for me, the reason that this is ranking so high is for 2 reasons. This is one of the midi palettes, so you get a lot of shades, but it's a smaller amount, and again, variety. Like, I'm a girl who likes her variety. I love this color story. Like, this is right up my alley. This was in my eyeshadow wardrobe tag video, I do believe, because of this story, because I think I put it as my birthday look, as like what I would choose for my birthday, because these like pinkier shades really bring out the green in my eyes, and I really enjoy that. So I love that we have this beautiful like mustardy tone. You've got a little bit of a bright yellow, and then you've got these like pinky purples in here, and then you could totally do a really fairly neutral look as well with this. So this one I've gotten some really good use out of. I really enjoy this size. Like, to me, Natasha could make all of her palettes this size and I would be very happy. I think that that midi size is the perfect way to go. Like, you get a wide variety of shades, you have a little bit smaller price tag, and I love that color story, so that's why it's hitting the top 3. All right, moving right along, let's get to our top 2. So you guys probably aren't going to be surprised about this one. This is the Glam palette. So this is the one I was talking before about. This is the only Natasha Denona palette I have paid full price for. And honestly, I kind of gave into the hype because, like I said, I don't usually buy these for full price, but I was looking at this color story and I was going through all of my palettes and I was like, you know what? honestly, I don't really have much of like that neutral to cool tone in my collection anymore, which is so funny because, and I think I talked about this at one point, but like in my, like, let's say teens, I would only wear like cool tones. Like you could not have paid me to put a gold eyeshadow or anything warm on my eyes. I was actually into like that bluey blue silver. Oh, it hurts my heart now to think of that. But I didn't really have any cool tones. So it's just not where my aesthetic has gone, but I like that this really is, to me, definitely more in that neutral to cool. So I think that this could suit a wide variety of skin tones. You have these beautiful shades. You of course have these wonderful formulas, and I know that there was some drama over the way that Natasha labeled the shades, but to me that doesn't make a difference at all. I do also love that you could pop these out if you wanted to put them in a different palette, rearrange them. If, let's say, you did want to like take a couple shades from here, exchange them with some of the ones in here, and then you'd have a beautiful way to have like a really usable travel worthy palette. So you could pop out a couple of the like mid-tones and stick in a couple like pops of color, and that would be a lot of fun. So I think that that really makes these really usable. Of course, like, I mean, you guys have seen the Glam palette all over, but I'm just going to swatch a couple of these shades. I just realized I didn't swatch any from the last palette that I did, so sorry about that. But I really think that, like, yeah, to me this is truly like a more neutral to cool. Like when we look at these three shimmers that I just laid down sloppily over what was underneath, but there's really only a couple shades in here to me that lean more cool. Like this center eyelid shade is the only one that has that bit of bluey silver. Even this outer eyelid, this is almost like more of a khaki gray, if you will. So I think that these are all so very wearable. I have really truly enjoyed being able to use this palette. No regrets. I don't even regret paying full price for it, and that's saying a lot. So thank you, Natasha, and that one is my number 2 pick. So I just realized you can't even see my sweatshirt. This is my Big Hair Don't Care sweatshirt that I got from a wonderful friend, and I thought since I'm rocking a little bit of the larger hair today, this would be a fun one to wear. That was kind of the inspiration for my eye look that I did today. So I do have a little bit of razzle dazzle going on today for Natasha, but you know, keeping it real with the comfiness of a sweatshirt. Got a little bit of both going. Okay, anyway, let's talk about number 1. This is not going to be a surprise to most of you. All right, so most of you will know that I fell deeply and very quickly in love with the Metropolis palette. Now, I did not pay full price for this either. I actually didn't technically pay anything for it because I did use a Sephora Rouge reward. Oh, I guess then actually I did pay $29 for it. See how our brains make us think we spend less money than we do? It happens. So I did pay $29 for this, which of course is a total steal. I'm gonna tip this for you guys because I still have this one with these 2 broken shadows in it that I need to go ahead and press back in. But the color story on this, so versatile, so fun. You guys know that I am a green lover, so we have a wide variety of those in here. We have some beautiful like sunset options over here. This one just steals my heart, because you could do so many looks with it. The other thing is the formulas in this are incredible. Like so creamy, so buttery. I can't remember which shade it was. I think it was this, let's see. I think it was the shade Royal. That's this like deep green shade. Like it's so creamy that it's almost dangerous because I could have just taken that and like blended it up into my hairline. I swear it was just super buttery and blendable. So I'm really loving this one. I'm of course gonna have to swatch a few for you. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because I did do a dedicated video where I used both the Safari and the Metropolis. So I used both so you can see looks from both. I will make sure of course to link that up above as well. So why don't we go ahead and swatch a couple of these that I haven't actually touched yet. Ooh. All right, I am of course going to have to swatch this Royal shade just so you guys can see the magic. So gorgeous. I mean, seriously, wow. So yeah, so pretty. I feel like I just did like a little Christmas vibe there, unintended, but this is so pretty. Like I have just had so much fun with this palette. I think you could go really bold. I think you could go softer with this, and I have definitely been enjoying playing with it. So the only thing for me is I don't love this little card thing here. I don't like it. I want to rip it out because it just drives me nuts, but it does of course protect the shadows a little bit, and then that's the only way that I can see the shades that I'm using. So that is one thing. I really prefer when a palette has the shades written inside it on the plastic, but that's just me. So that's one little finicky thing. I'm not gonna be too mad at that. I do really enjoy this package. Like, I love the luxe feel of this. I like the, you know, shimmery deep green, although I will say, and that's one thing that I should have talked about with this guy, this is actually like a spongy material, and then you've got the cover stitched onto it over the top, and that's how the Sunset palette is as well. The one thing that I find though is if you are an impatient person or you aren't very careful and you go to try to like open this up between the cover and the sponge, if that makes sense, you can start to pull away the corners of this packaging. I haven't had it happen on the Metropolis. I feel like this one is a little bit more sturdy, but I did start to notice that with my Sunset palette. So that's probably something that I should have mentioned. So throwing that one in here at the end, that's just one thing, the durability of the packaging, but I haven't had that issue with the Metropolis. But you know, that's just part of having something that isn't hard plastic. I mean, these do look very glamorous and beautiful. I do enjoy that, but you have to be a little bit more careful, so don't go opening it recklessly. All right, one more ramble at the end of the video, just to keep it real. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I want to know what your favorite Natasha Denona is, or if you don't have any, what is the #1 that you want to pick up? I hope that this video was helpful to you in deciding that. Maybe there's one that you thought you wanted and now it's going to give you second thoughts and you can save some money, or maybe you're like, yes, I love that, I totally have to go and snag that one. So thanks again for hanging out with me, you guys. If you did enjoy this, please don't forget to give it a like. It really does help me out here on my channel. Let me know if you like these like ranking videos. I'd like to do more of these if you'd like to see that. This has been a fun one for me to sit here and talk with you about eyeshadow. I would not be surprised if another Natasha Denona ends up in my stash here in 2021. Thank you guys so much. I hope you're doing well. I will see you really soon. Okay, so I finally get my stuff together to start talking to you guys, and that's exactly when the train has to start going by. And now that I'm sharing that with you, the train has now stopped. All right, so moving into palette #4. This is the Natasha Denona Peak palette. You guys won't even be able to see that. Okay, moving right along, let's talk about #4. This is the Natasha Denona. Of course, it's Natasha Denona.